Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm going to tell you about my Dungeons and Dragons Lego um, Eberron campaign, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So I'm up and running. I got a nice group. I got 4 players, and we just finished our second session for my Eberron, my Dungeons and Dragons Lego Eberron campaign. So all of the miniatures, all the miniatures, and all the terrain are Lego, right? And so each player. So basically, I use kind of blank minifigs, and then one nice thing is I've reached a point where every single mundane weapon in the Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook I can represent with actual Lego pieces. And I've also reached a point where I can represent every single one of the 35 species that are legal in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is really nice. So with that, I've kitted out. We have a House Tharashk human fighter. House Tharashk is the finding house. So of course he has a dragon mark. We have a dwarf rogue who is House Kundarak, and of course he has a dragon mark as well. We have a half-elf bard female who actually is a graduate of Strixhaven, which I'm extremely excited about that chosen background. And then we had a human fighter as well, a second human fighter. And so we're definitely off to the races. The Eberron was chosen by the first player to sign up for the campaign. I said, I have access. I'm missing 6 D&D canon hardbacks for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. And just the only reason I don't have the physical books is they're just like literally the least favorite. And I'm kind of like, am I going to use a gift slot to get those? And it's like $240 and things are tight, right? But I said, hey, just pick anything. And if he had picked one that I didn't have, I would have went out and got it. But he said Eberron, which is really interesting. So here's my experience with Eberron as a dungeon master. It is challenging. It is really challenging. So Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, Eberron Rising from the Last War, right? And the biggest thing is this book is 320 pages long. And what it really is it's a repermissioning, right? So, of course, Eberron, came from 3rd edition. And, since I play Dungeons & Dragons, the exciting, cool Dungeons & Dragons, and not some crusty book I need to blow the dust off of, right? That means that Eberron is presented in 5th edition through Rising through the Last War. But what it is it's a compression, right, of Keith Baker's Eberron from 3rd edition. And Eberron was also in 4th edition and has been brought forward in 5th edition. But that book is a lot. There's just so much going on with it. So right now, I'm learning the houses. I think I finally understand the Silver Flame. One of the things I've struggled with a little bit is I'm really very tight. Everybody's like, "Oh, Scott, you're a Dungeons & Dragons shill." There's things I don't like about Dungeons & Dragons, just like you, right? One of the things I really don't like is deities that don't matter, right? Like Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen is like, here's a bunch of deities. None of them show up. None of them care, and everybody wonders if they're dead, right? And it's the exact same thing in Eberron. Like Keith Baker's like, here's all these gods that never show up and you'll never see them and they're not really real. They're just like, maybe they're a thing, maybe they're not. And so that's really been challenging is like, the Silver Flame are like, we worship good people. And it's just confusing. And I don't think it's confusing. I think it's just kind of weak sauce. Like basically one thing that does frustrate me is I do think that Dungeons & Dragons needs to reach out to actual people of faith. Because, they're building a game in, Seattle, like, literally, right? You're not going to find a person of faith there. Like, come on. Like, these are all atheists and agnostics to the last, right? Like, I legit don't think I'm not sure there's a single person of faith who's worked on, Dungeons & Dragons in a long time, right? Like, and when I say a person of faith, I'm like, here's a evangelical Christian. So hey, how do you get saved? By the blood of Jesus Christ and no other way. Well, what if I'm just a good person? Yeah, you're going to the hot place, right? Like, I'm talking for realsies person of faith who actually believes the words in the sacred text. Not like, oh, well, I believe all this until it offends you, and then I'll abandon it immediately because I never really believed it to begin with, right? That's what I mean by a person of faith, right? So that is frustrating. I mean, like, I would like, I read all this stuff about the Silver Flame, and I'm like, okay, what is this, right? And so that's been a little bit of a blocker. I really just don't. I feel like they really bobbled the ball on the faiths in Eberron. Keith Baker is a brilliant guy, utter garbage for his pantheon. Like, if you're not a person of faith, don't write pantheons. You have no business doing it. Like, go find somebody, like an actor, like when they want to learn how to be a cop, they go find a real cop and they like hang out with them and they're like, what's the real deal here, right? And this is the thing frustrating. Keith Baker, clearly an atheist or an agnostic, doesn't know anything about religion and just wrote this, very pablum bad religion, right? So that is the one thing I'm definitely not liking about Eberron. I think its pantheon is garbage. And I wish that part was better. I love the Warforged. I absolutely love the Dragon Mark houses. There's a lot of exploration to do there, and I'm really enjoying the exploration there. I'm also just incredibly blessed to be engaging with with skilled, intelligent, charismatic, confident Dungeons and Dragons players again. It's really fantastic. I'm watching very carefully. I had like a big kind of a breakup with one of my players about a year ago, or actually about two. And I'm just being very careful to make sure that I'm managing the table well and trying to manage the relationships of the players and the dungeon masters and going around. That's been going very well, and I'm just really excited about it. And I just wanted to share with you. I'm up and running on Eberron. I love the Dragon Mark houses, and I'm learning about the 5 nations, right? Thrain and Sire and Ondare and Canath and Breland, right? And like Breland being the merchant land and Sire being the art land, and also where the Warforged were created, and then also just getting to to the part where I'm learning about the Canath with their relationship specifically with the undead. And it's very, it's really unusual, and then Ondare being the nation of the magic, it's really, I'm very impressed with it, with the whole of it, and I am, and proceeding well, and it's really good to. Oh, the other thing I love is I absolutely love the lightning rails, I love the elemental galleons, and I love Sharn. It is really good to be exploring a very cool, very fresh, re-permissioned Eberron. Fresh, now, good, right? Thank you guys for letting me share you just an update on my ongoing dungeon mastering. I would love to hear if you've run Eberron before and any advice you have for me to run Eberron. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. I'd love to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.